Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hi, and welcome back.
Yes, and so this is a big statement. We are about to do what centuries of human beings have not been able to do, and that is to get the big picture and realize that we are all one. And it certainly doesn't seem like we are one, of one mind, of one being, of one essence in many ways when we look at everything going on in this world. But it's the underlying fundamental reality of reality itself.
It is, and we have to realize that what we do, to other people, we're doing to ourselves, and what we see in other people is a reflection of ourselves, and that's very literal.
Yes, there are so many things that are taken for granted as if they are really, really understood, but they're not understood. And we have talked about the axiom, as above, so below. As within, so without. Hermetic principles. And we've talked about the Kybalion in the past, as well as so many other great works. There's so much understanding out there that is right there for the world to embrace, and it would truly change if we really understood what we might think we understand.
That's really difficult to wrap your head around, but this is this fun little thing called life, and we get to explore and learn and find out for ourselves.
So I think most people that believe in God with the big G, source, the real source of everything that ever is, will be, or was, prime creator, the first creator, because sure, there are a lot of creators. There's many creators, right? We're all creators of a sort. We're all manifesting our own reality to a degree as we go through this. So there's some things that would be agreed upon, I think, by most people, especially, of the Abrahamic tradition. From what we're told, God is omniscient, right? So God has the ability to know everything, unlimited knowledge. There is no limitations to the knowledge of Source, God, with the big G, prime creator. God is omnipotent, all powerful, right? Virtually unlimited authority. Can do anything. I think, that's what most people would think of with God. Omnipresent. Present everywhere at the same time. Right? So do we all agree that, if there is a single source, it must be all three of those things? Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on this, Miss Cynthia?
Well, I just think of God and Source, the all. How could it be all of these things unless it was of itself? It would have to know of itself and know all the things that were happening in itself. So that makes all of us that one.
Yes. And when I asked you, what do the guides say? If we ask the guides, is Source in every single being that there is?
The guides asked me back. They said, how can it be any other way?
Exactly. How could it be any other way? So when we, look at, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time, but just give you a few examples. When we look in Genesis and we have God saying to Adam and Eve, where are you guys? Where are you? Okay, well, that's obviously not the creator of everything. Some will say it's a rhetorical question, but as we know, there are many things that have been mistranslated. And so, Elohim is used. And really, God with the big G is not even really used in the Bible as far as the Old Testament. We're talking about the Elohim, the mighty ones. Again, plural, singular beings, but a group of like beings, which are different than humans, but not that which is the all. Because the all is omniscient. He doesn't have to ask. And actually, See, right there, when we do something like I just did instinctively saying he, because we're so trained to say he, we could say she, probably better saying it, they, because obviously if it's omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, it's not just masculine. It's everything, and it's not limited in any way, shape, or form. So there is a line of thinking called pantheism. And pantheism is the doctrine that the universe, conceived of as a whole, is God. So God is effectively the universe and everything we see in it.
That's right. And once you really start getting into this, it's still difficult to wrap your head around. You just have to sort of sit in that place of understanding and say, okay, this just is.
But when you do spend time deep in meditation, you start to get the sense, you can get the sense, I should say, that even you are something much bigger than what seems to be the case when you're in a normal state of waking mind. Your consciousness starts to expand, and you start to have what is called self-realization when you spend enough time and effort in deep meditation, realizing the self, because the self is not the body. The body is simply a vehicle that is used by the consciousness. So this doctrine that the universe conceived of as a whole is God, and conversely, that there is no God but the combined substance, forces, and laws that are manifested in the existing universe. The cognate doctrine of panentheism, so we have pantheism and panentheism, asserts that God includes the universe as a part, though not the whole of, and it should say again, see, automatically they go to a masculine gender. It's there. I guess there would be more, because, again, it's not limited to one gender or one duality, because this is, as we obviously see, a realm of duality.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's just so much more than what you see in front of you, and it does take time to understand that.
So, like when you look at monotheism, and there's a belief that there's one God that created the universe, it's typically thought of that God is separate from the universe, but that God created the universe. And we'll see, because there's different lines of thinking in Hinduism as well, and even within Buddhism, there's different lines of thinking. And in this finite body, it's not likely that most of us are going to get the realization and know exactly, what the truth is. But we'll see that there's different schools of thought in these different philosophies as well. But there are some things that are very, very obvious, because if God is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, then it has to be in all of its creation. It could not be any other way.
Mm-hmm. And it's okay if, you don't understand certain things. Maybe you're not meant to, because it's all about exploration and Source exploring all of itself and every perspective it can possibly find.
Yes, and so this gets into breaking down what the word means, and pan is like all, and theism is relating to God and the immanence of God in everything. The indwelling presence of God is what we are really talking about here. Every single being, every tree, every animal, every fish, everything, even the rocks, has Source, the true God with the big G in it. And it is interesting too, when you see the life force, you'll see that everything has the life force in it, even like a table. It's not that it doesn't have life force in it anymore because it's manufactured, it's not a live living tree, but you can still see a glow around it of energy.
You can, and once you start seeing these things, then you realize, okay, everything really is alive. Even if you're a plastic cupboard, if you look at that cupboard, and soften your eyes a little bit, you start seeing the little swirly things there.
So, I do have links for you guys to get in deeper, and here it is: why Christianity refutes pantheism and also panentheism. Because, again, it's all about the origins of our modern Christianity. And we could also say Islam, too, because, in Islam, Allah, again, is a being. It is something that, a singular identity. It's not which could not really be omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. Again, it's just the way it is, and it's more than obvious in so many ways. So, pantheism, again, a doctrine that equates God with the forces and laws of the universe. And that's also, it could get into what is meant in a lot of pagan traditions, where all gods are one god, all goddesses are one goddess.
Yeah, you can look at it that way too.
You can. There's so many different ways we could look at it. Now, we could also look at the fractal nature of the universe, which we have in the past, and we could see how the neural network of a brain looks very, very much like what we see when we look out into space with the stars. There's that as above, so below. We see it with veins. We see it, the way rivers run, very, very similar to a vascular network again. We see this. It's so obvious and preeminent all around us that there is this reflective nature. And there is also the thought that just as you are composed of trillions of cells, and you have 10 times the amount of things living in you than the actual cells in your body. So you're a universe, I'm a universe, Cindy's a universe, Zeke's a universe, and Sassy's a universe. Oh, that's a scary thought. The Sassy universe. It must be a crazy one.
It's totally crazy.
Every single one of us is a cell in the earth. The earth is just a cell in something bigger. The solar system is a cell in something bigger. The galaxy, each galaxy is just a cell in something bigger. And this, brings us into here, and this is from Sadhguru. Who is Shiva? Well, there's a lot of different answers to that. Man, myth, or divine. Shiva refers to both that which is not and Adiyogi. Adiyogi is the first yogi. So the first consciousness, the first human, you could say, to meditate, the first yogi that was going within for answers instead of without. But also from the other side, that which is not. And this is a reflection again on consciousness itself. Because we have Shiva and we have Shakti. And again, Shiva can mean that which is not, which is just consciousness in an unmanifested form.
It is. So, there's different ways you can look at this personified, so to help us understand. And I think that's what a lot of these entities are for, is to help us understand.
So, there was a question about, when the Bible says God created man in his image. Well, you can look at it a lot of different ways. If you look at it from the standpoint, and let me give you, there's an Old Testament and a New Testament quote that says, "Ye are gods," just like that. And not gods in a possessive form, but that you're a god. You are a god, so to speak. And as we were saying, if God is everywhere, in all things, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, then God is in everything in the universe. Now, to those things living inside you, you're the universe. You're a God. It's just that simple. And our physical bodies are part of a much bigger body. And yet, our consciousness, we can equate to a single drop of water taken from the ocean of consciousness, which at some point in time may merge back with that ocean and then be the ocean itself instead of that single drop of water.
And then, therefore, never really knowing where something begins and something ends, because it just never really does.
And so the Shakti is the divine feminine, the Shiva is the divine masculine. We could look at it that way. We could look at Shiva as yang and Shakti as yin. And that could move us into the Tao and Taoist philosophy and Taoist lines of thinking. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The Tao is both named and nameless. As nameless, it is the origin of all things. So that is the Shiva, that which is not. It's the same philosophy. As named, once it is named, once it comes into being through the divine feminine, then it's the mother of 10,000 things. And they use that phrase to mean everything. A myriad of things, everything that there is. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one sees only the manifestations. And the mystery itself is the doorway to all understanding. And that's the first verse of the Tao Te Ching. And there's all the wisdom that you need in there. When you see the yin and yang symbol, the masculine and the feminine, each with the essence of the other within it. And yet the Tao is the totality of that and beyond that.
Indeed it is.
So we get into the Jiva and the Atman, or the Jiva Atman. The Jiva is the individual soul or self. And the other that we have is the Paramatman, or the Para-Atman. That's the universal eternal soul. So the Jiva is in the body, but is transcendent above the body. And the Atman is the eternal nature. And I'll give you guys all these links for anybody that's interested in delving deeper. The world, according to the Upanishads, is the manifestation of Brahman, and not Brahma. So that's confusing too, because you have the trinity of Hinduism, where you have Brahma, which is the creator, the creative force. And then you have Vishnu, which is the sustaining force. And you have Shiva, which is the destructive force. But it's also, Shiva is also the destructive force because of the realization of the oneness of the all. So it gets rid of the illusion of the separateness of the individual, which is a temporary thing in the ocean of the consciousness of the all.
But then sometimes I think, well, maybe we did come here for that separate experience, so that's okay too.
Well, we did. And that's the whole point of everything, is this is, again, this is the creator, God with the big G, exploring its creation from every single possible angle. All different types of beings, all different types of experiences, but ultimately all is one. So Brahman is basically something we could equate to the nothingness of manifestation, and yet the everything at the same time. And I know it's something for the Western minds that haven't delved deep in Eastern philosophy. It can be very hard to get this, but when we look at the Western philosophy after really delving deep and understanding that this is the science of consciousness, which is in the West as well. It's just it had to be hidden, because you would be put to death if you were talking these things in the olden days, and not even too far ago.
No, hasn't been too far back at all.
So the true self is indestructible, infinite, invisible, transcendental, blissful, uncreated, independent, pure witness and enjoyer. That's what it's supposed to be. The manifest universe itself is not evil, as some lines of Gnosticism feel. And that's really because of the system that's been in place on this planet. but it's not the way it's should be. It's just we've been basically hijacked by beings that are trying to keep us in the dark. When we see these Hindu gods, and some of them have more than one head, some of them have more than one hand, what's it referring to? It's referring to the bigger self. It's referring, as many are familiar with the term higher self, and we've also looked at over souls and the fact that it might be confusing to grasp in our limited bodies that we're in right now and these limited brains. But it is possible for us to even have more than one incarnation at the same time of our higher self.
Absolutely. We can incarnate and have we can stagger our incarnations. It's pretty interesting.
It is. It's fascinating. So, consciousness is exploring its own creation. And that's it. And that's the great truth, that all are one and one is all. And that is liberating. When we truly understand that, it is such a liberating thing to realize this. It helps us to rise above. As Krishna said to Arjuna, he said, the difference between you and I is that I remember all my incarnations and you don't. You're under the illusion. Maya has your mind, and you think that you're just this body, but you're not.
No, we're not. We're so much more, and that's something that they just do everything that they can possibly do to keep us from finding that out.
So we can achieve this liberation, this moksha from the wheel, so to speak. And it's in realizing, that source is within each one of us. You are source. You're an individual spark of source, or you're that single drop of source that is momentarily, apparently, separate from the ocean. But in reality, we're still all the one.
Yep, we are.
So I hope this raises some questions in people's minds. I hope this maybe turned on a few light bulbs, so to speak.
I'm sure it did.
Thank you guys for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Thanks for being part of this family. Any suggestions on what you want to talk about, delve deeper into, please feel free to leave a comment, and we will delve into whatever you want to delve into, and we'll explore together. If you guys need to make an appointment, you can reach us at evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com or EEARTS@protonmail.com. God bless, guys. Namaste.
Namaste.